So in order to get our external file data into JavaScript, we need to create some objects and then interact with those objects. For the first one that I'm going to create, I'm going to call it Ajax HTTP, and I'm going to set a brand new XML HTTP request. So these are built-in methods within JavaScript, and what this does is this is a JavaScript object that allows you to pull in that functionality in order to set up our Ajax request. So if I was to console log this out, I'm actually not sure what we're going to see here, but just to indicate that now this is a brand new object that it's created. And then next we're going to set that object file. So see, here we've got our so I wasn't sure if it's actually going to write out all of this information here. So these are all of the built-in methods that are in the XML HTTP request object. And as we can see here, we've got an abort, error, load, load end, start, progress, on ready state change, on ready state, and a whole bunch of really useful methods here. So by default, the ready state is at 0. And what ready state is it's going to be the communication with that external file. So when we change our ready state from 0 to a status value of 200, which is that it's received data, then, and once the ready state changes, so there's various ready states. So the ready state will actually change to a value, and if it's successful, it'll be a value of 4, and status will actually go to 200. So right now we're at 0 and 200. It could be status 404 if the file is not found, 500 server error, and so on. But 200 is a successful response. So we're going to check to see when the ready state changes, what our ready state value is, and what the response is. And that's how we're actually going to know what content is ready to go. So the next thing that I wanted to do is set up a value for the URL. So I'm just going to do variable URL, and I'm going to equal it to that JSON file. So I had just called it JSON for simplicity. Of course, you can call it whatever you want, .json, and get access to it. And as well, we're going to access some server content as well in the upcoming lessons. So now we need to access this object, this Ajax HTTP object that we created. And first of all, we're going to do an open on it. And what open, it initializes our Ajax request. And then we've got some information here. So we've got our method. So we've got the URL that we're accessing, and then the async. So for the method, we have a few options. We can do a get, we can do a post, but for this one we're just going to be doing a simple get. And then next we need to send our URL. So we've got our URL defined over there, so all we have to do is just do URL. And lastly, for the sync, so we want to set that to true. And then Ajax HTTP. So here we have to set request header. And this is going to be a value that gets sent over to the server so that we can indicate what type of content we're expecting to receive. Now you don't always have to include the request header, but it's just good format to include it. So you indicate the content type. And the content type is going to be application.json. And now we're going to essentially add our listener, our response listener. So when that request is opened and we get something happening being responded back from the server, then this is going to fire off this event. So it's on ready state change, and if that does fire off, we're going to set a function to run, not going to pass any parameters in there, so it's going to be a very simple, straightforward function. And this is where we need to put a condition where we're going to actually check to see what's being sent back within this response. So when the ready state changes, we want to check to see what that ready state is. So we want to get back that information and say, well, what's the ready state? And the one that we're looking for, we want it to equal 4. In addition, we want to check to make sure that we've got a successful response. So we check that status number to see if it's 200. And if all of these conditions, or both of these conditions are met, then we're okay to fire off the rest of our function. And in here, I'm going to just set it to the same thing as we used before, variable JContent, and this is going to load in that response text data into an object. So before we actually, so maybe I can do it this way to demonstrate what we're responding back, and then we're going to parse through that data, because it's not actually going to be ready for consumption quite yet within our JavaScript, and we're going to have to do a parse. But just so that we can see what's coming back there and what information is being contained in there. And I can also maybe parse or log this one out as well, so we have a better idea of the content that's being returned. So you're not actually going to have to set it up this way, but this is just so that we can actually see what's happening. And then lastly, I want to actually initiate that Ajax HTML HTTP object, and I want to send that over. So we're not actually sending any data, so we can just do null, or we can leave it blank. So in this format, I'm just going to actually null it. So let's see what happens now when we refresh it, and hopefully we don't get any errors there. So we see that we actually have some data here, and they're all going to be the same here. The requests are going to be the same, and so on. So even though that we're actually console logging out, so essentially what we've done here, we're not parsing this through as JSON data, so we're just looking at the response text. So I should update that. So our response text is this, and as we can see, it looks similar to what we want it to receive, but we still need to parse that out. So, and I believe that this is probably going to be the same thing, our response. So it gives us some information. So our ready state did change. Ready state is now 4. Status is 200. That means that we're okay to receive data, and this should be ready response text, so that we can actually see what's being responded. Or not that one. That one shouldn't be response text. So this one should be response text. So I think I got it right this time. So in the JContent, we want to get the response next, not just the Ajax HTTP object information, which we're pulling down here as well as down here anyway. So I can just get rid of one of those as well. Refresh it. So we see that our response text is within this type of object format, but JavaScript isn't actually reading it as an object. So it's reading it essentially as it's formatted out and as it's being responded, but we can't actually access these until it's in an object format. So remember in the previous lesson, we had looked at how when we console log out that object, we can actually click through and we can see all of these, and it's properly formatted as an object. So what we need to do is we need to parse through it to make it in a usable format. So all we have to do is JSON parse, and this is a built-in method within JavaScript, and allows us to parse that response text and actually put it in a usable format. So now when I refresh it, we've got it in that familiar format, the same way that we had it initially, that JContent, and we were able to look through all this object information. So that's how you access external file and pull the content as an object data into your JavaScript. So in the next lesson, we're going to go through this in a little bit more detail, as well as look at working with more complex JSON objects. So that's coming up in the next set of lessons.